Before you watch this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Social Media Jaman TV, and do not forget to press the notification button and to get more information. Good day, we are very pleased to keep you updated with the latest Asean news, and here they are. Vietnam implements lockdown for 2 weeks after country faces worst COVID-19 outbreak.
Thành phố đã chuyển từ trạng thái nhắc nhở sang tiến hành xử phạt hành chính đối với những trường.
The state television VTV reports Vietnam will impose restrictions on movement in 16 southern provinces for 2 weeks from Monday as the country faces its worst COVID-19 outbreak so far. Vietnam has managed to keep coronavirus cases relatively low due to the targeted mass testing and strict contact tracing, border controls and quarantine measures. But new clusters of infections in recent weeks have triggered concern among health officials. Strict restrictions are earlier also be prioritized for around 7 million rapid COVID test kits due to arrive in Vietnam next week. Vietnam's daily COVID-19 cases hit a new record of 5,926 infections, raising its total cases to 53,830, with 254 registered dead.
Có như vậy mới mang lại điều kiện tốt nhất cho bệnh nhân.
Với tinh thần hết lòng vì nhân dân phục vụ.
Southeast Asia hit hard by variant Delta, spreading rapidly due to slow vaccine rollout.
According to Singapore's Liang He Zhaoba analysis of Johns Hopkins University data, Southeast Asia is one of the regions worst hit by the COVID-19 pandemic as it grapples with the fast-spreading Delta variant and slow vaccine rollout. Confirmed cases in Southeast Asia jumped 41% in the past week to more than 500,000. Singapore's Chinese language newspaper reports, so far the total caseload in Southeast Asia has surpassed that in Latin America and India, which have been hit hard by the pandemic. While deaths in the region rose 39% recently, the quickest pace in the world, and will likely to rise further given the surge in confirmed cases. Southeast Asia's overall vaccination rate stands at just 9%. Indonesia, Thailand and the Philippines have already cut their gross domestic product forecast for this year, and Malaysia say it will follow suit soon. In addition, the Malaysia's Health Ministry Director General Nur Hisham Abdullah in a press conference says that the Delta variant are partly responsible for the surge, being more infectious and able to be transmitted more quickly compared to the previous strains. Indonesia, Southeast Asia's largest economy, surpassed India in new daily cases this week, emerging as a new pandemic epicenter in Asia, while its neighboring countries also report record case numbers in a single day. The government has been imposing the strictest restrictions on public activities so far, but failed to contain the worsening epidemic. Indonesia launched its COVID-19 vaccination program in January. So far, about 5.8% of the 270 million population in the country has been fully vaccinated. The coordinating minister for Maritime and Investment Affairs, Luhut Binsar Panjaitan, in a virtual press conference says the country, considering the incubation period of the Delta variant, the number of new daily cases is expected to further increase. The surging number of new cases is also straining Indonesia's health system.
Duterte calls for ends vaccine nationalism because some rich countries stockpiles vaccines.
Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte calls for the end of vaccination nationalism while criticizing some wealthy countries for hoarding vaccines. He made the call during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation's informal leaders retreat, where leaders of member economies discusses cooperation in fighting against COVID-19 and promoting economic recovery.
We are aware that more than 80% of the COVID-19 vaccines have gone to the rich countries, leaving the rest of us in the developing world into so little to get by. The great imbalance in vaccine access needs to be rectified. Vaccine nationalism must end. How can nations have stockpiles of weapons that can destroy us all, but not have ready reserves of life-saving vaccines and medical supplies for sharing that can save us all?
The president also calls on all countries to ensure fair and safe access to vaccines and stressing that effective mass vaccination is the key to global economic recovery.
Volunteers help delivering oxygen cylinders to residents when coronavirus cases increase in Myanmar.
Volunteers step up to help people to get the oxygen that may save their lives after coronavirus cases surging in Myanmar. Poetar, a student, for a week has been out by dawn to gather oxygen cylinders from the homes of coronavirus sufferers in Myanmar's second city of Mandalay. He and fellow volunteers line the tanks up outside the charities for filling and returning it. They are trying to save lives in a country whose health system has largely collapsed since the February 1st coup, and which now faces its worst surge of COVID-19 infections. Poetar and his team are part of growing grassroots effort that bypasses the authorities and echoes the way Myanmar's people responded to crises during previous decades of army rule. Health Ministry figure shows deaths from COVID-19 reached a record 233 in Myanmar, but medics and funeral services say the real toll is much higher and crematorium are overloaded. The total official death toll has risen more than 40% already this month to 4,769. With spread of the Delta variant that has also surged elsewhere in Southeast Asia.
Czech delegation member tests positive for COVID-19 after arriving in Japan.
The Czech Olympic Committee announced a staff member of the Czech delegation for the upcoming Tokyo Olympics tested positive for COVID-19 after arriving in Japan. The staff member had 2 negative nucleic acid tests before arriving in Japan. At present, the staff member, together with other close contacts, is under observation and quarantine. The committee notes the test results of other Czech national players who arrived in Japan on the same plane are all negative, and the training plans of Czech Olympic athletes will remain unchanged. According to the Tokyo Olympic Organizing Committee, from July 1 to 18, a total of 55 athletes and Olympic-related personnel have tested positive for COVID-19, but the nationalities of confirmed cases have not yet been announced.
Thailand's monk helped cremation organizer for COVID-19 victims after the death toll in the country.
Monks on the outskirts of the city coming in to do work cremation organizer for COVID-19 victims as the death toll continues to rise in the country. One of them, Pongpet Santijito, donned full personal protection equipment over his ochre monk robes as he prepares to move and cremate victims of the coronavirus. Usually, the temple cremates only 2 to 3 bodies per month, but it has been 4 to 5 bodies per day since the wave of the pandemic. The temple offers a free-of-charge cremation for those that died of coronavirus, and it has built an additional crematorium due to the rising number of deaths from COVID-19. Santijito adds they decided to add another one so that once bodies arrive, it can go directly into the crematorium to reduce risks of exposure. Thailand reports a daily record of 98 coronavirus deaths, taking total fatalities to 3,032 since the pandemic began last year. The country's COVID-19 task force also reports 9,186 new cases, bringing total infections to 372,215.
a volunteer group distributes free food for COVID-19 patients who are in self-isolation due to soaring cases in Indonesia.
Volunteers like Buddy Uzaman with team are pitching in to help delivering food to people who have tested positive but are forced to quarantine at home as hospitals run short of beds after surges in the Indonesian capital. Buddy and fellow volunteers of non-profit charity Dompet Duafa or Wallet for the Poor have established a public kitchen in the Jakarta area to provide free nutritious food to help those suffering from COVID-19 isolated at home. They send food through the driver of three-wheeler and Buddy drops off the packages in front of patients' homes and calling out that their food has arrived and making small talk from a distance. So far, all hospital occupancy rates at about 90%. Few COVID-19 sufferers are likely to find a bed, so their only option is to self-isolate, recover at home, and prevent the spread of the virus. The group getting help from the local community and some housewives have stepped forward to take on the task of cooking rice, preparing chicken and vegetables. Indonesia, which is the world's fourth most populous country, with more than 270 million people, has seen infections hit a record daily high approaching 57,000 this last week. It is struggling to cope with a wave of cases driven by the highly contagious Delta variant. Even so, Buddy feels able to overcome his fears of getting infected to carry out his volunteerism.
South Korean military faces worst COVID-19 outbreak aboard an anti-piracy ship off the coast of Africa.
South Korea's military records its biggest cluster of COVID-19 infections, with more than 80% of Cheonghai unit members aboard a destroyer on anti-piracy patrol in the Gulf of Aden testing positive. The country's Joint Chiefs of Staff says that just 50 of the ship's complement of 301 personnel have tested negative in an outbreak first reported. Authorities begin an operation to airlift them home, while a replacement team will steer the vessel back home. While the 247 cases are not directly linked to new domestic infections, with the destroyer having left South Korea to start its mission in February, the surge comes as the country battles its worst ever outbreak of COVID-19 cases at home, with another 1,252 new infections reported. The Defense Ministry says no one aboard the destroyer had been vaccinated as the unit had left the country before the vaccination campaign began for military personnel. Authorities decide vaccination at sea was not a viable option as it would limit monitoring for any allergic reaction such as anaphylaxis due to the nature of the operational mission.
China increases emergency response to high-level floods in Henan province.
According to the Ministry of Emergency Management, China upgraded emergency response to floods from level 3 to level 2 as heavy downpours ravaged the central province of Henan. The Ministry of Emergency Management says torrential rains lashed the central western and northern regions of the Henan since July 17 and still continues to wreak havoc. The Ministry of Water Resources warns because some rivers in the province, including tributaries of the Yellow and Haihe rivers, have seen water levels exceed warning level. Continued rainfalls are expected to trigger sharp water level rises and flooding over the next day. According to the Meteorological Department, average rainfall over the past 24 hours reached 253 mm in the provincial capital, Zhengzhou, with the biggest rainfall of 400.8 mm recorded in Pingdingshan City's Lushan County. The heavy downpours flood streets, stranding motorists and disrupting traffic across the region. Train services suspend, many highways are closed and flights are delayed or cancelled in Henan. In Zhengzhou, heavy rain even flooded the subway, leaving passengers trapped in waist-high floodwater. Meanwhile, firefighters in the cities of Zhengzhou, Pingdingshan, and Luoyang have been busy evacuating local residents to safety. The Provincial Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters says that more than 144,660 residents have been affected by torrential rains in Henan since July 16, and 10,152 have been relocated to safe places. In addition, fire departments in Henan have carried out 408 flood relief and emergency rescues. Fire departments in Zhengzhou alone have dispatched 548 fire engines, 25 boats, and 2,710 firefighters in response to emergencies. A total of 849 trapped people are safe, and more than 1,500 residents are evacuated to safety in Zhengzhou. Floodwater has damaged 9,222 hectares of crops, causing direct economic losses of nearly 73 million yuan, about $11.3 million.
55 countries sent letters to WHO to oppose political manipulation in tracking the origin of the coronavirus.
Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijiang at press briefing in Beijing says a total of 55 countries sent letters to the WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus to oppose politicization in tracing the coronavirus origin, reflecting justice of the international community. We welcome Grenade, Kiribati, the Solomon Island, São Tomé and Príncipe, Burkina Faso, Mauritania and Ghana to join the ranks of justice in sending letters to WHO Director General Tedros, opposing the politicization of virus tracing. As of today, 55 countries have sent letters on this issue. At the WHO member state briefing on July 16, Russia, Belarus, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Iran, Syria, Burundi, Zimbabwe, Cameroon, Cuba, Venezuela, Bolivia and many other countries spoke out for justice. They stressed that virus tracing is a scientific task and should not be politicized. The joint China-WHO study released by WHO should be upheld. The voice of justice uttered by more and more countries is in striking contrast with a few countries who play political manipulation, run against science and distort facts. This fully reflects the justice of the international community and what the public is for or against. And it fully indicates that most of the countries uphold equity, objectivity and justice.
Going to establish its representative office in Lithuania.
The spokesman affirms relevant parties should stop playing political games on the issue of origin tracing, stop using the issue to shift blame, and stop sabotaging international cooperation on origin tracing research. They should adopt a truly responsible scientific attitude and work with the international community to make due contributions to the fight against the pandemic and safeguarding human health and well-being.
That's the end for today, folks. Stay safe, stay healthy, have a nice weekend with your loved ones.